Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Donna Feazell, and I'm your host of Afternoon Drive Home on IC Radio in the town of Geraldine, Alabama. We're your source for news and entertainment. You can also find us on television locally in North Alabama. You can find us on channel 182 on Charter Communications. And then worldwide, you can find us on Abundant TV, which is found on Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV. Again, it's so good to be with you Monday through Friday, 1 to 3 p.m. Let's go ahead and get started because we've got lots of great information. I have with me another special guest. He's been on the show a lifetime almost, AP. That's A.P. Steadham. He's a sports talk show host, about to start his own television show, and sports commentator. If it's about sports, AP's got it. Hey, AP.
Hey, Donna, how are you? So glad to be on the show today.
Well, it's always good to be with you, too. I see a different background. Where are you?
I'm telling you, Donna, I'm at the College Football Hall of Fame in their theater, Atlanta, Georgia. We're here at the SEC Media Days for football 2022.
Well, you know what, AP? I lost the bet when it came to the Alabama-Auburn game. You won. You're not that far up the road from me. I owe you a supper.
We'll collect at some point.
Yeah, we'll collect one of these days. So what are you doing there? What's going on?
Yeah, well, there'll be 4 days, Donna. So you have 14 coaches. So you have 3 or 4 coaches each day, and they'll escort 3 players with them as well. So that's 64 people total will have an opportunity to interview, besides the commissioner of the Southeastern Conference and other individuals as well. So it's always a great event because I see people from the region in the media, also nationally, and they have different guests. They'll have the president of the National Football Foundation here, one day Steve Hatchell. So I always like to visit with Steve. He's located in Dallas, Texas, and they're the ones down there that have that special induction ceremony. It used to be at the Waldorf in New York, but they moved it to Las Vegas the last year, and then it'll be in Las Vegas again. But no, it's football season. All the coaches will be here, from beginning with, let's say, Alabama, all the way down to Vanderbilt, A through V, all in between. So today we're going to have Brian Kelly, the former Notre Dame coach. He moved to LSU for about $100 million down in 10 years. That's easy math, right? Easy math. We'll have Lane Kiffin of Ole Miss, and then we have Eli Drinkowitz of Missouri. And then, like I say, each successive day be 3 or 4 coaches, and then they'll have the 3 players accompany them. Auburn will be here on Thursday, and Alabama will be here on Tuesday, and Tennessee will be here on Thursday.
Oh, so you got the South covered. That's pretty awesome. I'm not going to ask you who you're looking forward to talking to the most, because everybody. I know it's going to be everybody, and it's going to be a great day. That's
right, everybody. I mean, I always enjoy learning about the players. I like to speak to the coaches, what changes they may have made or insights they might have about their program. That's kind of a tricky situation, Donna, to get them to reveal some information, but you have to be selective in your question.
There you go. And you know how to do it. You've been doing this a really long time. And let's talk a little bit about your background before we get in, because I know you've got just tons of experience that you can't buy. And that's really important, what you do.
Yeah, Donna, I've been very fortunate. I used to write for Bama Magazine. The editor was Kirk McNair, and he was the sports information director for Coach Bryant. So I felt really lucky to begin my career with Kirk as one of my strong mentors. So I was able to visit with all types of Alabama players in football, basketball, women's basketball, golf, baseball, whatever connected them to Alabama. And then in so doing, connecting with the people from Alabama, I'm reaching out to the players from Auburn and the coaches of their school as well, and other universities in the Southeastern Conference and around the country, Donna. So I've traveled East Coast to West Coast to different sporting events and presentations, the Walter Camp Football Foundation at Yale University, the Maxwell Award, they're out of Philadelphia. They hold their events usually in Atlantic City. I cover the Heisman when Alabama or Auburn has had a player in New York City. I've been to the National Football Foundation banquets in New York and Las Vegas. Donna, I'm the only person in Alabama that covers the NFL draft, believe it or not.
I believe it. I absolutely believe it.
Yeah, I've covered it over 10 years in New York, Chicago, Nashville, Cleveland, Ohio, recently Las Vegas. So I've been to professional basketball games, baseball games, the NFL. Yeah, I just had a marvelous time covering some golf. So it's been an array of events that I could never have dreamed in my lifetime, and met so many people from coast to coast.
Well, I'm going to say this because football was my only bag. I mean, I only like, so you got me into basketball. So that was a task to do that right there.
Yeah.
So, and I've got a couple of messages for you, and this is from the last time you were on the show. You know, we had the one listener now because we're worldwide now, so we're on Abundant TV. So I did have a listener from California who had a message for you, and we talked about that. Now I have multiple folks who are from California who are telling me to tell you to tell Saban stay away from California.
we can ask and request, but I think it'll be denied.
He's not going to listen.
No, and I'll tell my friends from California that Alabama has become the Notre Dame of the South, all 50 states and even across the ocean. And they've been up north in Canada and recruited players. So look for them, maybe even to go south. Maybe they'll go down to South America or Australia for a punter. Auburn's got a punter from Australia. They've had in other teams as well in the Southeastern Conference. So Alabama looks globally for different players.
Yeah, we're all going global, and I think that's really interesting. So I know since we are going global, and all the coaches know this. So I'm going to have coaches who come down here and want players also to go up north. We've had quite a few of that as well. So what are the burning questions you would like? Maybe a question that's not typical for Saban that you'll probably be something along the lines asking him about when you talk with him this week.
I think Saban each year, Nick Saban, he tries to find the identity of his team. Mm-hmm. So maybe a question might be, what is the preliminary identity of this team?
That's a good question right there.
I don't know what he might say. I'm not sure. He might say, well, I really don't want to reveal it at this moment because it's not important. He might cast it aside. He's very good when he doesn't want to answer a question or deflect it. And then the big question with Alabama, Donna, this year, and I think it's one of the bigger questions that I've seen with an Alabama football team during the Saban regime, the offensive line. And we know that's so important, Donna, because the offensive line, if you could protect the quarterback, and Alabama has the returning Heisman Trophy winner, Bryce Young, he's going to complete passes. So consequently, he's keeping the other team's offense off the field. So that's a dual role. If the offensive line is good, you're helping your own defense and you're keeping the other team's offense off the field. If you want some sustained drives with either running the football or short passes moving down the field. So this year at Alabama, huge question mark is the offensive line. They're very solid running back, wide receivers. I don't know if they have any first-round draft choices at either position, but they're very good players. Of course, you got the Heisman Trophy quarterback returning. Tight end is good. They've brought in a junior college player as well, besides Cameron Latou, number 81. Then they'll have on the defensive side, Donna, I think that's where they're going to shine. You got the best defensive player in America, Will Anderson Jr. from Georgia, state of Georgia. He ended up with, I believe it's 101 tackles from that position is incredible, from the edge position, 17 and a half sacks. He's the best defensive player, Donna, that I've seen at Alabama. I've been watching 50 years since Derek Thomas. And we all know Derek was sensational. Junior and senior year, 18 sacks. The following year, 27. Ended up with 52, which is a college record that was tied later by Teddy Bruschi of Arizona. So that's a high compliment for Will Anderson Jr. He should win most of the defensive awards, be an All-American again. And then on the other side, you have Dallas Turner from Florida. He's a good edge rusher as well. But Dallas is from Florida. But the secondary, they have multiple players. Not everybody can say they have people on the bench that could come in because, Don, in this day and age, you're throwing the ball so much, the defensive backs get winded. If you have the replacements, you can win that war of attrition by substituting. So Alabama is solid at every level. The defensive line, upper level classmen returning with experience. Linebackers, excellent. Secondary, good. Kicking game, solid. Will Ricard was perfect 2 years ago. Had another good year last year. Missed a couple, but every kicker usually does. And the punter is very good as well. So Alabama, only question mark is that offensive line. And they'll get some young players down that we have not heard of because they don't have the experience, but they're talented.
Yeah.
So Alabama's the #1 school so far in the preseason polls, most of them #1 in the conference. They'll be challenged by Georgia in the East primarily. And then in the West, there's all these good teams, Texas A&M, LSU, Auburn's trying to make a comeback. They need to find their quarterback. So those are just a few of the things that we're looking at.
Absolutely. And I wanted to mention one other thing. You and I have discussed this throughout the years, and that's about when talent scouts, I don't know if you call them talent scouts or recruiters, will go out to high school football games looking for a potential recruit. Are there areas they concentrate in? Is it small towns, large towns, or does it matter?
Donna, Alabama and some powerful schools across the country are looking at a prep school player in Connecticut from Finland. So does that answer your question?
That answers it. That really answers it.
Everywhere and anywhere, Donna. If they get a clue or a reference from somebody, they'll fly to that school from any state or any country and try to recruit them.
And that's why it pays just to be the best you possibly. You never know who's watching. I mean, you
absolutely.
Yeah.
Right, absolutely. And Donna, even if you play at a smaller school, if you have the physical ability, you'll catch up once you arrive on campus. It might take you a year, but if you have the physical size and skill and talent, you'll be accepted.
Well, a couple schools just in this local area that folks really need to be getting out and watching, and that's Geraldine and also Fife. Fife has done very well in football, but Geraldine had actually beat Fife this year, which is an unusual feat. I'm telling you, so they did a real good job. So you scouts out there watching, you need to come out and hang out in this part of the country too, because we feed them cornbread and beans and stuff like that. So they go out.
Right. You want the great thing about technology, Donna, you can send your tape to any school to garner interest. You can be proactive. You don't have to wait for them to call you. You present your information to their scouting department. And believe me, if they like what they see on film, you're gonna have a phone call, you possibly have a visit, and they'll get in touch with you and start discussing you as a prospect.
Yeah, it's best to never think, even Pee Wee, we got really serious. We get serious about football here with Pee Wee football games. So let's talk a little bit about Auburn and what's in store for Auburn from where you're looking from the outside looking in.
Right. I think their offensive line needs to perform for their quarterback, Donna, because the quarterbacks the last couple of years at Auburn, they've been running for their life. We've talked about this many times, but they have to have some stability and consistency on that offensive line, because that's going to help their defense, like we always say. And Auburn has about 4 candidates. TJ Finley was a transfer from LSU last year. You have the transfer from Texas A&M, Zach Calzada. He beat Alabama last year in a real high-scoring game. I think it was 41-38. You have Robbie Ashford from Hoover, who played at Oregon, and he transferred to Auburn. Then you have an incoming freshman from Georgia. His name I can't recall at the moment, but so they have 4 candidates. So I think at least 2 of them will play and probably should play, Don, because they have varying skills. For instance, Robbie Ashford, he's fast. He played some baseball for Oregon. He can make those unusual throws from different angles when he's on the move, and he's fast. So he can give you a problem from the 20-yard line in when you get near the goal line. I would use him and set up some special plays for him. So you want to look at that offensive line for Auburn, the quarterback situation. Like I said, I would be happy if they play 2. It doesn't bother me if they play 2 quarterbacks, as long as they complement each other.
Yeah.
But what you're trying to do, Donna, when you're looking at the quarterback position, who is the person who gets the ball in the end zone the most possessions? That's the quarterback's responsibility. Get the ball in the end zone. And the quarterbacks, that situation, Donna, will become evident when you have practice and you chart the quarterback's completions and his ability to get his team in the end zone. And then now defensively, they have some pretty good pass rushers, some new people in the secondary, pretty good at the linebacker position. They've got a host of tight ends down. I like their set of tight ends. They're not as good as, let's say, Georgia, but Auburn has a 3 or 4 tight ends that I think are going to be key to the quarterback. Because Donna, when you're looking for those short passes and you're feeling the rush, look to that tight end because they're strong. They can wrestle the ball away from people. And then at the wide receiver position, they have to improve. I think the last couple of years it's been mediocre. They've dropped some passes, and that has not helped the quarterback, obviously. So they have to get better at that with that unit. Tank Bigsby, excellent runner for Auburn, one of the best in the conference. Probably
I
be an
want to hear
all-conference.
that name a lot.
Yeah, you're going to hear Tank's name a lot. Hunter, who was a freshman last year from Mississippi, he's a scat back, a different style than Tank, a little more speed, cutting ability. But those are two solid players at the running back position for Auburn. Anders Carlson is a good kicker. Probably needs to have a better year, I would think. And the punter we spoke about, I think he's from Australia. He's very good, very good. So then you have some new coaches on the staff, offense, defense. We'll see what develops and see if they can implement their plan. I mean, everybody's enthusiastic. It's a brand new year. A lot of pressure for Brian Harsin. He came in last year, went down to LSU, won a big ball game, played Alabama tough in the Iron Bowl. Could have won the game, took them to the wire, went to overtime, a couple overtimes. So I know there's a lot of excitement. They want to do much better record-wise and win more ball games. So it's a hot seat in Auburn, but I think if they can come up with a couple of quarterbacks and an offensive line, that'll do a lot to improving their chances.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me ask you another, and we're still into Auburn just for a couple more minutes. And then we need to get with Tennessee because we're going to have Tennessee folks are going to be mad at me if we don't talk about them. So as far as the quarterbacks, I know each quarterback has a style. And, and then the players kind of get used to that style. I think maybe they're used to Bo Nix's style. He's not there anymore. Is it going to be a hard transition for the other players to get used to another quarterback style?
Donna, they adapt fairly well, most players, because they have different coaches in their career, different quarterbacks, different offensive line. The ball's thrown at a certain speed from one quarterback. The rhythm's different, the placement of the ball, the speed of the ball. So they're practicing every day and finding that rhythm as, let's say, the wide receiver. They're finding the cadence that they use at the line of scrimmage. They're willing to change and adapt for each quarterback.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see that. Now let's talk about Bo Nix for just a minute.
Bo Nix transferred to Auburn, Donna, and he's going to get his chance if he's the starter. He comes back to Atlanta to play the Georgia Bulldogs. He's familiar with that team. So, it's interesting because one of the assistants from Georgia on that national championship team is the new coach at Oregon. So I think that helps that Oregon program to have the assistant, the former Bulldog assistant, the new head coach of Oregon. So, and Georgia has to replace 15 players, Donna, a record number that were drafted into the NFL. So can Kirby Smart reach that same level of Nick Saban year after year? He's proven that he can win a championship and beat Nick Saban in Alabama for a championship. But now can he replace that plethora of former players that are now in the NFL? He recruited excellent players through the years. Now we're going to see that young talent at Georgia, see if they're ready.
I think so too. Now let's talk a little bit about slow growth. A business actually does better when they go through a slow growth. If you shoot it up really fast, sometimes as far up as they go, they're going to crash just as fast. So we've noticed a slow growth in Tennessee. Do you think they're going to capitalize on that this year?
I think Tennessee, for me personally, a given with them is they're going to score a lot of points because Josh Heupel is excellent as an offensive coach. He's the head coach. So he does well. They had the transfer, Hendon Hooker from Virginia Tech, played very well, one of the better quarterbacks in the league, Donna. And so if he can continue on that arc of getting better, I think Tennessee's got a fantastic chance to put a lot of points on the board. Again, defensively is the issue for them. Can they slow the other team down and have a solid kicking game, field goals and punting? But I think a function of their defense will be if they can sustain that effort every week, stopping the other team enough times so their offense can score. And that's been the the burden of that Tennessee program. Not enough defense, Donna. I have confidence in the offense. The question mark for me is the defense.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree with you. You know, you and I have talked every season about the kicker. You know, sometimes the kicker, you know, is the star of the show, you know, in all the other places, because sometimes they make that winning kick that does it for them. Who are you looking at as far as kickers this year?
Well, I think Will Reichert from Alabama, very good. Like I say, 2 years ago, he made every field goal and every extra point. I think it was 14 for 14. I think it was 75 or so extra points, something along those lines. I forgot the exact number. And then I'm looking for Anders Carlson to have a better year at Auburn. You know, I think that he needs to make a few more field goals, be a little bit more consistent. Those are the two kickers on my mind at the moment.
Now, when
LSU's got to replace a kicker, I think they had a really good kicker. LSU has to replace it.
When we're talking about kickers, though, I'm sure talent scouts or recruiters are out there looking for them with high school football as well. What if someone wants to be a kicker for the football team? How do they need to practice? I mean, what exercises do they need to do to get ready for that?
Yeah, you want to have the leg strength, Donna. I've heard from kickers that from 40 yards in, Donna, it's the same approach. You know, the same speed of your leg. Mm-hmm. You should try to kick from 40 yards in, make every field goal. Let's say you practice 10 times. That, you know, in that 20-minute span, you want to make 10 field goals from 40 yards in. Then you can feel comfortable. Then you move past the 40-yard line. You get between the 40 and the 50. How many can you make between the 40 and the 50? Concentrate on that range. Then you move slightly beyond, you from 50 to 55, and see how many you can make. But you want to keep the strength of your leg and the flexibility of your legs. You want to make sure that you have that ability as a kicker, flexibility and the strength. So get yourself a trainer who can help you in those areas, or get on YouTube and find out how you can have a strong leg and the flexibility as well. And then you have to use some psychology on yourself, Donna, as a kicker. The weather's not good. Well, I can't think about the weather. It's raining. Well, okay, let it rain. I'm going to make the field goal. I'm going to have the same motion, the same steps, the same rhythm when I kick. There's a lot of people yelling my name. I'm not worried about it. You have to practice these things and psychologically command your mind to just think about all the technique and the process that I need to follow through with to make a kick. No matter the circumstances, the weather, the sounds from the fans, it doesn't matter. I'm kicking this football through the uprights.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about women in football. I mean, there's some women that are pretty good at it. And so if a woman played any part in a football game, what should they be aiming for? Would it be the kicker? Would it be something else?
Yeah, right now I'd say a kicker. I would say Donna. Although at some level she possibly can play another position on the field, on the offense or the defense. I think at the Division I level right now, the FBS level, I don't think I know of a woman who's competed on offense or defense. Kicker, yes, but with an offensive unit or defensive unit, no. So I would think if you want to get on the field, be a kicker, because the coach is always looking for a kicker with poise and confidence.
Mm-hmm. I think so too. You know, I see, I mean, women are really, really good at sports. I think there was a time and a place that the guy players wouldn't respect them, but I think now might be the time. I think guys would welcome it.
I think, Donna, if you were a kicker as a female and you were making the field goals, they would love you.
I don't think they care whether you're a man or a woman. At this point, they want to win the game.
They want to win. Can somebody make that field goal in the last second when we've driven the ball down the field?
We've seen that a lot. Let's talk about Texas for a minute, because, you know, we've had some listeners from Texas who've told Saban that, you know, stay away from Texas too. So how's their ball game looking this year?
Yeah, he's strong recruiting in Texas for sure. Yeah. Texas, Donna, Steve Sarkisian came over from Alabama, the former offensive coordinator, and he has a transfer from Ohio State, Quinn Ewers. He probably will be the starter. They have an excellent running back, Bijan Robinson, who's a Heisman Trophy contender. And then they have a few players, 3 players from Alabama, Keelan Robinson came over as a running back, a smaller running back, relatively 5'9" or so, a couple 100 pounds, 190. He came over and competed last year. You got Algie Hall, the wide receiver, transferred from Alabama, and Jaleel Billingsley from Chicago, the tight end. So those are three players that came over from Alabama. They're very good offensive players. Now, I know they're going to be motivated on September 10th because that's when Alabama visits Texas. Now, Texas has a lot of areas they need to improve, Donna. Offensive line, and that's critical, as we always mention, especially for Texas, because defensively they haven't been very good. So that offense needs to be on the field scoring points for them to have a chance. But it's going to take a few more recruiting classes for Texas to be on the same level as Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson, Georgia, some of these other powerhouses around the country.
I think it's going to be great. We've got 4 minutes left in this segment. Are you ready to talk about your new show yet? Or do we need to slide on it?
Yeah, we're going to slide at the moment, but keep listening. We look forward to it. It'll be a weekly show, syndicated show, 1 hour, but we'll be discussing it pretty soon.
I'm pushing him. I'm pushing him to the limits. I'm pushing Steadham. Okay, there's a little bit over 3 minutes left in this segment. What would you like to walk away with today? What are you really looking forward to this week?
Yeah, Don, every day that I'm here, the 4 days I'm here, I'm trying to learn a little bit about the team. Where do they feel confident? Do they feel strongly about their quarterback, their running backs, their offensive line, the defense? Are they feeling good about the new assistants they brought on board to be a coordinator or a unit coach for let's say the tight ends? I mean, what are some of the things that we can learn in our questions by visiting with the coach and the players? And then we're going to discuss some other things that are brand new, relatively, Donna. The name, image, and likeness for each player, and the transfer rule. We've had so many players transfer. Could be within the conference. 1 minute you're playing for Alabama, next thing you know you're playing for Auburn, or vice versa. So that's something that's really intriguing and interesting, Donna, in this new era of football. So we'll discuss the name, image, and likeness, the transfers. We'll talk about what some of the players feel, how they've become better with what they've done. We'll talk about some of the newcomers. We'll have them give an assessment of their teammates. It's always fun to listen to them have some comments and analysis about new teammates. Maybe it's a freshman, maybe it's someone who's been there for a while and all of a sudden is going to emerge as a starter and contribute to the overall success of the team.
I think so too. Now the background you've got there, we've got a little bit over 2 minutes. So this is a theater, is that right?
Yes, this is a theater, Donna. This is actually, let me see if I can move this slightly. Let me see if I could turn this around for you really quickly. Okay, let me just turn it. See, there's a big screen right there. Can you see that?
Oh, how awesome is that?
That's a big screen. And this is actually, Donna, where we hold the national championship press conference in this room. They set it up right there. They have the chairs for the 4 coaches, and we'll be sitting in the theater and asking them questions. So that is usually held on Thursday, one of the first weeks in December, after the championship games on that prior Saturday. So this is held right at the College Football Hall of Fame. And they also have an award show here on that Thursday evening. And then a lot of times we have to fly to New York on Friday because they have the press conference on Friday. So you have to get up early on Friday morning and get in the sky and headed for the big city, Manhattan.
Yeah, but you know what? Your enthusiasm, and you really love what you do. I don't say that's an issue for you at all.
No, I've been able to maintain that level of intensity and excitement and enthusiasm. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Less than a minute left in this segment. AP, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Oh, Don, it's been my pleasure, and I look forward to future shows and announcing my syndicated show. And thank you so much always for your support and how you've embraced me through the years.
Well, thank you for what you help us with this show as well. We definitely appreciate it, AP.
Thank you, Donna.
All right, I'll let you get back to it. I know you got to get ready for the next thing you got going on.
Okay. Thank you, Donna. Bye-bye now.
Okay, folks, look, we're going to go into a commercial break in just a minute. Thank you so much for watching Afternoon Drive Home on IC Radio in the town of Geraldine, Alabama, your source for news and entertainment. Find us on television, also nationwide on Abundant TV, and that's found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. We'll be back shortly.
Don't tell me about the night.